His origins are traced to the Prophet himself in his genealogy. They explain that he is the 36th generation descendant, and I think he is the ancestor of Amir Khan. This man then starts the Jihad. An Islamic state cannot function without wielding the sword of Jihad. So the thing is, Syed Ahmad Sarhindi and Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, they create the doctrine, the political doctrine. Now it needs to be actioned and implemented. Now that gets actioned and implemented by this gentleman called Syed Shahid Barelvi, who died at a place which everybody knows now is Balakot on 6th of May 1831. And that death is the reason why it becomes the training ground for jihadis. That's why, let's say you have all these people going there as if it's a shrine. I'll tell you why it became a shrine later. But this gentleman his origins are traced to the Prophet himself in his genealogy by the seminaries of this country. They explain that he is the 36th generation descendant of so-and-so, so-and-so. They mention all of that. This man becomes a student of a descendant of Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, and he starts a preaching tour. You see, the man couldn't read or write, and members of his community interpret this as a divine sign because apparently the Prophet also couldn't read and write, and therefore they said this is the blessing of the divine himself. This is a karamat, and so he starts his preaching tours. And he effectively puts into action Dehlavi's vision on the ground. He goes to Ghazni and he pays his respects to Mahmud of Ghazni.
He goes and stays.
He goes and stays there, pays his respect at the mausoleum of Ghazni, and they're not even connected.
But he finds a kinship
there, right? This man then starts the Jihad. He believes that the only way that we can action this is by bringing back the implementation of the doctrine of Jihad, which is an essential element of establishment of political Islam. So Dehlavi makes it abundantly clear, his intellectual godfather, that an Islamic state cannot function without wielding the sword of Jihad. It needs that because it creates the way, it clears the path. So Barelvi also carries swords on his person so that he sends a message to his followers that militarization of the Muslim community is essential. All of this happens. So Jihad has been around for such a long period. Now, the most modern, educated, sophisticated exponent of the centrality of Jihad is Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first education minister of this country, who was a Wahhabi. And that I've explained in the book. Because he follows, he was a Wahhabi at the outset, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, he also is a follower of the other, let's say, figure that I mentioned of the 19th century, Afghani. Both these people effectively decided that why are we constantly emphasizing on the pacifist nature of Islam, and that's not the case. Jihad is a central doctrine, and it's not as if it's an internal fight with the demons inside. It is a very clear military doctrine. The establishment of an Islamic caliphate requires the centrality of Jihad to be revived. All of these discussions happen. This discussion goes on from the mid-17th century and right until Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who was presented as a nationalist Muslim to us. And I think he is the ancestor of Amir Khan.